The transport ship descended through the clouds of Station Harmony, the largest educational facility in known space. Jake Morrison pressed his face against the window, watching the massive structure grow larger. It looked like a giant wheel floating in orbit, with thousands of lights twinkling across its surface. Next to him, Emma Collins was reading through her welcome packet for the third time. "Stop worrying," Jake said with a grin. "It's going to be fine." Emma looked up at him with nervous eyes. "We're the first humans to attend the Galactic Interspecies Academy. What if we mess something up? What if we accidentally insult someone? Then we apologize and learn from it," Jake replied. "That's literally why we're here. To learn about other species and show them what humans are like." The ship docked with a soft thud and the doors hissed open. Jake grabbed his bags and stepped into the arrival bay. It was enormous, with ceilings that stretched up at least 50 feet. And it was crowded with aliens. Jake had seen pictures and videos during his preparation courses, but seeing them in person was different. There were tall, thin beings with blue skin and 4 arms, small, furry creatures that barely reached his knees, floating jellyfish-like things that glowed softly, a group that looked like walking crystals. "Wow," Emma whispered beside him. They followed the signs to the registration area, joining a line of new students. Everyone was staring at them. Jake supposed they were just as strange to these aliens as the aliens were to them. He smiled and waved at a few curious onlookers. Some waved back awkwardly. Others quickly looked away. The registration process was smooth. A friendly 4-armed administrator checked them in and provided their room assignments. Jake and Emma were both assigned to the Human Habitat Module, specially designed for their species' needs. They would be living with 3 other human students who had arrived earlier. As they left the registration area, Emma grabbed Jake's arm. "Look," she said quietly. Jake followed her gaze and understood why she sounded worried. 2 massive figures stood near the corridor entrance. They had to be at least 9 feet tall, with bodies covered in black armor like shells. Their heads were angular and sharp, with large eyes that gleamed like polished metal. 4 arms hung at their sides, and Jake could see blade-like structures folded against their forearms. "Vraxians," Emma said. "I read about them. They're supposed to be one of the most dangerous warrior species in the galaxy." One of the Vraxians turned its head toward them. Jake could feel the weight of its stare. The creature made a low clicking sound and said something to its companion. They both watched as Jake and Emma approached. Jake did what came naturally to him. He smiled and walked right up to them. "Hi there, I'm Jake Morrison. This is Emma Collins. We're from Earth. Are you guys new students too?" The Vraxian stared down at him in silence. Up close, they were even more impressive. Their exoskeletons had patterns etched into them, and Jake could see powerful muscles moving beneath the armor plates. One of them leaned down, bringing its face close to Jake's. Its mandibles spread slightly, revealing sharp inner teeth. A strange smell filled the air, something chemical and sharp. "Fascinating," Jake said, pulling out his tablet. "Would you mind if I took some pictures? I'm studying xenobiology, and your species' structure is amazing. Those blades on your arms, are they retractable?" The Vraxian pulled back, its head tilting in what might have been confusion. It exchanged a series of clicks with its companion. "I think you just scared them," Emma said, though she sounded amused rather than worried. The first Vraxian straightened up and spoke, its voice deep and rumbling. The translator device in Jake's ear converted the words. "I am Thraxul of the 4th Brood. This is Siktar. You are the humans?" "That's us," Jake said cheerfully. "First of our kind to attend the academy. Pretty exciting, right? What are you studying?" Thraxul seemed uncertain how to respond. "Combat theory and strategic warfare. All Vraxians study the art of battle. Cool. I'm doing xenobiology and cultural studies. Emma here is studying interspecies communication. Hey, we're starting a study group for the introductory courses. You two want to join? We could use different perspectives." Siktar made a hissing sound and spoke rapidly to Thraxul in their own language. Thraxul responded, then looked back at Jake. "Your species does not know what we are," Thraxul said. "We are apex predators. Warriors bred for conquest. Most species show proper deference when meeting Vraxians." "Oh, we know," Emma said, stepping up beside Jake. "We read all about your species. Very impressive military history. But we're all students here, right? Equal footing and all that." Thraxul extended one of his arms. The blade structure unfolded with a sharp snick, revealing a razor-sharp edge that gleamed under the station's lights. He held it near Jake's face. close enough that Jake could feel the air displaced by its movement. Jake leaned in to look at it more closely. Okay, that is seriously cool. Is that biological or more like a mineral deposit? The edge looks incredibly sharp. How do you keep from accidentally cutting yourself? The blade retracted. Thraxul made a sound that the translator didn't convert, probably something without a human equivalent. You do not fear, should I? Jake asked. I mean, you seem like decent folks. A bit intense with the whole warrior thing, but everyone has their culture, right? My friend Brad back home was really into medieval sword fighting. He'd probably love to talk to you about blade techniques. A group of other aliens had stopped to watch the exchange. They kept their distance, whispering among themselves. One small creature actually ran away when Thraxul turned his head in their direction. See, that's what I'm talking about, Jake said, gesturing at the fleeing alien. You guys have an image problem. Everyone's scared of you before they even get to know you. That's gotta be frustrating, right? Siktar spoke for the first time, her voice slightly higher than Thraxul's. It is the proper order. Fear ensures respect. Maybe, Emma said, but friendship ensures cooperation. And cooperation gets better results in the long run. At least that's how things work where we're from. Thraxul and Siktar looked at each other again. Their communication seemed to involve a lot of clicking and head movements that the translators couldn't interpret. We will consider your offer of study cooperation, Thraxul finally said. This is unexpected. Great, Jake said, genuinely pleased. We're meeting tomorrow evening in the common study area on level 5. Bring whatever snacks your species eats. We're bringing some earth food to share. As Jake and Emma walked away, Jake heard Emma let out a breath she'd been holding. That was either very brave or very stupid, she said. Probably a bit of both, Jake admitted. But did you see their faces when we didn't run away? They looked completely confused. I bet nobody's ever just talked to them like normal people before. They found their way to the human habitat module, which was a relief after walking through corridors designed for different gravity and atmosphere settings. The module was a circular area with 5 individual rooms branching off a central common space. 3 other humans were already there, and they looked up as Jake and Emma entered. Finally, the last 2, said a young man with messy brown hair. He jumped up from the couch. I'm Danny Wright. That's Lisa Martinez and Chris Allen. We got here yesterday. Lisa waved from the kitchen area where she was unpacking food containers. She had long dark hair tied back in a ponytail. Hope you guys like pasta. I'm making dinner. Chris gave a quiet nod from where he sat with a laptop. He looked like the quiet type, glasses perched on his nose. Over dinner, Jake and Emma told the others about their encounter with the Vraxians. Danny nearly choked on his pasta. You invited them to study group? The Vraxians, the species that's literally famous for never losing a war? They seemed lonely, Jake said with a shrug. Everyone's afraid of them, Lisa laughed. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. We're at a galactic academy surrounded by hundreds of alien species, and you're worried about the giant murder monsters being lonely. They're not murder monsters, Emma protested. They're just people from a warrior culture. It's not that different from some Earth cultures, historically speaking. I think it's nice, Chris said quietly. Everyone deserves a chance to be more than their reputation. The next day, classes began. Jake found himself in a xenobiology lecture with over 50 different species represented. The professor was a floating gas cloud being that communicated through color changes. Jake's translator worked overtime to keep up. He spotted Thraxul and Siktar sitting in the back row, taking up twice the space of normal seats. Jake waved at them. Thraxul's head tilted in that confused gesture again, but he raised one arm slightly in acknowledgement. During the break, several students approached Jake, keeping their voices low. Are you actually friends with the Vraxians? A lizard-like student asked. We just met yesterday, Jake said. But yeah, I hope we'll be friends. Why? They are dangerous, another student said, a small furred creature. My people have fought wars against them. We lost. Well, there's no war here, Jake pointed out. We're all just students trying to learn. Maybe this is a chance to move past old conflicts? The students exchanged uncertain looks but didn't argue further. Jake noticed that word was spreading, though. Throughout the day, he caught 3 weeks had passed since the semester started, and Jake's study group had become a regular thing. Every few days, the 5 humans would meet with Thraxul and Siktar to go over lectures and assignments. Other students still kept their distance, but at least they stopped running away whenever the Vraxians entered a room. Jake was eating lunch in the main cafeteria when Thraxul approached his table. The massive Vraxian stood there looking down at Jake and his plate of something that was supposed to be chicken, but tasted more like rubber. "Jake Morrison," Thraxul said formally, "I wish to speak with you about a matter of importance." Jake swallowed his food and gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Sure, sit down." "What's up?" Thraxul sat, though the chair groaned under his weight. Several nearby aliens immediately moved to different tables. Thraxul didn't seem to notice or care. "I have been observing your species since our first meeting," Thraxul said. "You show no fear. You treat Vraxians as equals. This is not normal behavior." "I mean, you haven't given me any reason to be afraid," Jake said. "You've been nothing but polite." "I have demonstrated my capabilities," Thraxul said. "I extended my blades. I released challenge pheromones. These displays usually trigger appropriate fear responses in other species." Jake thought about that first meeting. "Oh, is that what that smell was? I just thought it was like how skunks spray on Earth when they're nervous. Didn't realize it was supposed to scare me." Thraxul's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration. "Skunks? What are skunks?" "Little black and white animals back home. They spray this really bad smell when they're threatened. It's their defense mechanism. Pretty effective, too. Nobody wants to mess with a skunk." "You compare Vraxian intimidation displays to a small prey animal's defense mechanism?" Thraxul sounded almost offended. "I mean, they both use smell to affect behavior, right? It's just biology." Jake took another bite of his questionable chicken. "Is this bothering you? The fact that we're not scared?" Thraxul was quiet for a moment. "It is just confusing. All my life I have been taught that Vraxians are apex predators, the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Yet you and your fellow humans treat us like any other species. Some even seem to forget we are present. Would you rather we were terrified of you?" Jake asked. "No," Thraxul said, surprising himself with the quick answer. "No, it is refreshing in a way, but I do not understand it. Your species is small, soft, with no natural weapons. You should be afraid of everything in this academy." "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but fear doesn't really help much. Back on Earth, humans weren't the biggest or strongest or fastest. We survived by being smart, working together, and just refusing to give up. We made friends with wolves and turned them into dogs. We figured out how to hunt animals 10 times our size. We crossed oceans in wooden boats before we even had engines. Being scared all the time would have just slowed us down." Thraxul processed this information. "Your species sounds reckless. Persistent," Jake corrected with a grin. "There's a difference." That afternoon, Jake had physical training class. All students were required to take it, learning self-defense and staying fit. The instructor was a being that looked like an upright bear with 6 legs. Commander Hrock had a reputation for being tough but fair. Jake was stretching when Thraxul entered the training hall. They nodded at each other. Other students gave them space as they went through warm-up exercises. "Today we practice sparring techniques," Commander Hrock announced. "Pair up with someone near your size and skill level. Remember, this is training, not combat. Control your strikes." Jake looked around. Most students were already pairing up, carefully avoiding both him and Thraxul. Emma was partnering with Lisa. Danny had found another human-sized alien who looked willing. Thraxul walked over to Jake. "We should pair together." Jake looked up at the 9-foot warrior towering over him. "I'm not really near your size." "No," Thraxul agreed. "But no one else will partner with either of us. The others fear me and are uncertain of you." Jake couldn't argue with that logic. "All right, but take it easy on me, okay? I bruise easily." They moved to an open space on the training mat. Other students stopped to watch. This was clearly going to be entertaining for them. Commander Hrock came over, eyeing them both. "You are very mismatched in size, Cadet Morrison." "It's fine, sir," Jake said. "I'll learn more from someone better than me anyway." The commander considered this, then nodded. "Very well. Thraxul, remember this is training. Half-speed, pulled strikes only." "Understood," Thraxul said. They began. Thraxul moved first, a simple grab that Jake was supposed to defend against. Jake tried to step aside, but Thraxul was faster than expected. One massive hand caught Jake's shoulder and pushed. Jake stumbled backward and fell on his rear. "Sorry," Thraxul said, offering a hand to help him up. "I will move slower." No, that's good," Jake said, accepting the help. "I need to be faster." "Let's go again." They continued the exercise. Threxul would attack and Jake would try to defend or counter. It wasn't going well for Jake. He got knocked down repeatedly, thrown across the mat twice, had the wind knocked out of him at least 3 times, but he kept getting up. "Why do you continue?" Threxul asked after Jake picked himself up for the 10th time. "You cannot win." "Not trying to win," Jake said, breathing hard. "Trying to learn. Come on, show me that throw again. I want to see how you shift your weight." Threxul demonstrated the throw in slow motion. Jake watched carefully, asking questions about foot placement and grip. Then they tried it again at regular speed and Jake got thrown again, but this time he understood how it worked. By the end of class, Jake was covered in bruises and could barely walk straight. But he was grinning. "That was awesome," he said to Threxul. "You're an amazing fighter. Can we do this again next week? Maybe you can teach me some actual Vraxian combat techniques." Threxul stared at him. "You enjoyed being defeated repeatedly?" "I enjoyed learning from someone skilled," Jake corrected. "There's a difference. On Earth, we have martial arts schools where people pay to get beat up by experts so they can improve. It's a whole thing." After class, Threxul found Siktar in their shared quarters. She was reading reports from their homeworld. "The human Jake Morrison challenged me to combat today," Threxul said. Siktar looked up, concerned. "Is he injured?" "Yes, but only minor damage. He kept rising after each defeat. He asked for more." Threxul sat down heavily. "Siktar, I do not understand this species." "They are confusing," Siktar agreed. "I looked into their planet's database today. Their world is classified as a Category 9 death world." 9? Threxul was shocked. The Vraxian homeworld was only a Category 5. "That cannot be correct. It is verified. Their planet has extreme temperature variations, massive storms, countless predator species, and they evolved with no natural armor or weapons. They survived by endurance hunting. They would chase prey animals for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would make the kill." Threxul thought about Jake getting up repeatedly during sparring, never giving up despite clear defeat. "Endurance hunters," he said slowly. "They do not win by being stronger or faster. They win by refusing to stop." "Yes," Siktar said, "and they are pack hunters. They form social bonds readily and work together. This dinner invitation that Jake Morrison extended to us, I researched it. On Earth, sharing meals is how they form pack bonds." "We accepted that invitation," Threxul said. "Does that mean we have entered their pack?" "I believe they think so, yes." Threxul was quiet for a long moment. "This is very different from Vraxian culture." "Yes," Siktar agreed, "but it is not unpleasant." That evening, Jake and Emma were in the common area of their habitat module when Danny came running in, looking excited. "You guys have to see this." He pulled up his tablet and showed them a Galactic forum post. It was titled "Human Behavior at Station Harmony" and had thousands of comments. The post read, "Humans have been observed forming social bonds with Vraxians. They show no fear response. They invite dangerous species to share meals. They continue fighting even when clearly defeated. Initial hypothesis: humans may be more dangerous than their physical appearance suggests. Recommend extreme caution when interacting." "We're famous," Danny said, laughing. "We're concerning is what we are," Emma said, reading through some of the comments. "Listen to this one. I saw a human walk up to a Vraxian and compliment its blade structures. The Vraxian appeared confused. The human appeared delighted. I do not understand this species." Lisa came out of her room. "What's all the noise about?" They showed her the forum post. She read it and started laughing. "They think we're dangerous because we're friendly? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." "It makes sense from their perspective," Chris said from his corner, where he was working on programming homework. "Most species probably use fear as a social tool. Maintaining distance from dangerous things is smart survival behavior. We don't really do that." "Because isolation is dangerous too," Emma said. "Humans evolved to live in groups. Being cast out of the tribe was basically a death sentence. So we developed really strong social bonding behaviors. We'd rather risk getting close to something dangerous than risk being alone." The week leading up to the dinner had been busier than usual. Jake noticed that Threxul and Siktar seemed more nervous as the day approached. They would ask odd questions during study sessions, things like what temperature humans preferred for eating or whether there were specific rituals they needed to perform. "Just show up and be yourselves," Emma kept saying.
"It's casual."
"No pressure. But Jake could tell the Vraxians didn't really understand what casual meant. Their entire culture was built on formality and hierarchy. A shared meal probably had all sorts of significance he didn't fully grasp. On Friday afternoon, Lisa took over the kitchen area of their habitat module. She'd been planning the menu all week, determined to showcase Earth food properly. "I'm making roasted chicken," she explained to the others as she worked, "because it's familiar and comforting, and I figure protein is protein across most species. Then roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and pasta salad. For dessert, I made an apple pie and chocolate chip cookies." "That's a lot of food," Danny said, watching her work. "We're feeding 2 Vraxians," Lisa pointed out. "I've seen how much Thraxul eats at lunch. We need a lot of food." Jake helped set up the common area. They pushed furniture around to make space, set up a large table, and Emma arranged some plants and lights to make everything feel warm and inviting. Chris was handling music, putting together a playlist of gentle Earth songs that wouldn't be too jarring for alien ears. "I feel like we're throwing a party," Jake said as he put out plates and utensils. "We kind of are," Emma replied. "The first human dinner party at a galactic academy. No pressure or anything." At exactly 6 in the evening, their door chimed. Jake went to answer it and found Thraxul and Siktar standing outside. They were both wearing what looked like formal armor, polished until it gleamed. Thraxul held a container of something in his lower arms. "Welcome," Jake said, stepping aside. "Come on in. Sorry about the doorway, it might be a tight fit." Thraxul ducked his head and carefully maneuvered through the door. Siktar followed. Once inside, they both stood stiffly, looking around at the space. Their eyes took in everything. The soft lighting, the table set with food, the music playing quietly in the background. "This is your living space," Thraxul observed. "It is very soft." "Yeah, humans like comfort," Jake said. "Here, let me take your armor. You can hang it on those hooks by the door." Both Vraxians looked uncertain. "We are armored for formal occasions," Siktar said. "This isn't formal," Emma said, coming over. "This is casual, friendly. You can leave the armor on if you want, but you'll be more comfortable without it." We're all in regular clothes, it was true. Jake wore jeans and a t-shirt. Emma had on a comfortable dress, and the others were similarly casual. After a moment's hesitation, Thraxul began removing his armor plating. Under it, his exoskeleton was a darker shade of black, smoother and less intimidating. Siktar did the same. "Better?" Jake asked. "Strange," Thraxul admitted. "But yes, more comfortable." "What did you bring?" Emma asked, gesturing to the container Thraxul still held. "Traditional Vraxian food," he said. "Raw Corval meat. It is what we eat at formal gatherings." Lisa came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "Great, let me find a spot for that on the table. We're doing buffet style, so everyone can try a bit of everything." She took the container and placed it alongside the Earth dishes. The Corval meat was dark red, almost purple, and definitely raw. Jake decided he probably wouldn't try that one, but he appreciated the gesture. "Okay, everyone, food's ready," Lisa announced. "Grab a plate and help yourselves." The Vraxians watched as the humans moved through the line, taking portions of different dishes and chatting casually. Danny was already telling a story about his trip to the academy, making Lisa laugh. Chris quietly filled his plate and found a seat. "Go ahead," Jake encouraged. "Try whatever looks interesting." Thraxul moved to the table, studying each dish carefully. He used the serving spoons to take small portions of the chicken, vegetables, and bread. Siktar did the same, though she also took some of the pasta salad. They all sat down around the table. Jake noticed that Thraxul and Siktar were using the utensils awkwardly, clearly not accustomed to them. "You can use your hands if that's easier," Danny said. "I do it all the time with chicken. Lisa yells at me, but it's more efficient." "I do not yell," Lisa protested. "I politely suggest that manners exist for a reason." "You yell," Danny, Chris, and Emma said simultaneously, and everyone laughed, including the Vraxians, though their laughter was more of a clicking sound. Thraxul tried a piece of chicken. He chewed slowly, his mandibles working. "This is cooked meat," he said. "We do not usually cook our food. How is it?" Lisa asked, looking nervous. "Different," Thraxul said. "But the flavor is good, complex. I can taste the herbs you used." "That's rosemary and thyme," Lisa said, brightening. "They're earth plants. I wasn't sure how they'd work for other species." Siktar tried the vegetables. "These are soft, easy to consume. I like them." The meal continued with easy conversation. Danny told embarrassing stories about Jake from their orientation week. Emma talked about some of the interesting aliens she'd met in her communication classes. Chris quietly mentioned a coding project he was working on that involved translating human games for alien interfaces. Jake Morrison has told me you are from different regions of Earth, Thraxul said. Do humans form packs based on geography? Sometimes, Emma said, but not really in the traditional sense. We're social, so we form groups based on all sorts of things. Shared interests, proximity, common goals. These guys are my pack now because we're all here together, going through the same experiences. This is different from Braxian culture, Siktar said. We are born into our brood and remain with them for life. Bonds are determined by blood. We have families like that too, Lisa said. But we also make chosen families. People who aren't related by blood but become just as important. Thraxul was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then he reached for a piece of bread, attempting to butter it with the small knife provided. His large hands made the task difficult and the knife slipped. The bread went flying. The butter dish tipped over. Thraxul froze, his entire body going rigid. There was a moment of silence. Then Jake started laughing. Dude, don't worry about it, he said, getting up to grab a towel. I drop stuff all the time. Last week I knocked over an entire tray in the cafeteria. It was mortifying, but Thraxul didn't relax. If anything, he seemed more tense. I have shown clumsiness, he said stiffly. This is shameful. What? No, it's not, Danny said. It's just an accident. Happens to everyone. Not to Vraxian warriors, Siktar said quietly. Clumsiness is a sign of weakness. It is punished in training. Emma's expression softened. Thraxul, you're not in training. You're at dinner with friends. Nobody here thinks less of you for dropping something. Jake cleaned up the mess quickly, then sat back down. Seriously, if we judged people on clumsiness, Chris would be in trouble. He trips over flat surfaces. It's true, Chris admitted. I once fell up a flight of stairs. Not down, up. How do you fall upstairs? Siktar asked, genuinely curious. Very carefully, Chris said with a slight smile, and everyone laughed again. Slowly, Thraxul relaxed. He tried the bread again, more carefully this time, and managed it successfully. The conversation moved on to other topics, and the tension faded. For dessert, Lisa brought out the apple pie and cookies. The pie was still warm, and the smell filled the room. This is a sweet food? Thraxul asked, examining his slice. Very sweet, Jake confirmed. It's fruit baked with sugar and spices in a pastry crust. Total comfort food. Thraxul took a careful bite. His eyes widened slightly. This is very good. The sweetness is pleasant. Try it with ice cream, Danny suggested, adding a scoop to his own slice. It's even better. Siktar tried a cookie and made a sound of approval. These are similar to what you shared at study group. I enjoy them. After dessert, they moved to the common area couches. Jake brought out a board game. Something simple with cards and dice. We play this for fun, he explained. It's called Star Traders. Ironically, we invented it before we met actual alien traders. Teaching the Vraxians to play took some time, but they caught on quickly. Thraxul turned out to be very strategic, thinking several moves ahead. Siktar was more aggressive, taking risks that sometimes paid off spectacularly. You are good at this, Emma said to Thraxul after he completed a particularly clever combination of moves. Combat tactics translate to many situations, Thraxul said, though I admit I did not expect to enjoy a game. Vraxians don't play games? Danny asked. We have training exercises and combat simulations, Siktar said, but nothing like this. Nothing purely for enjoyment. That's sad, Lisa said. Everyone needs fun in their lives. They played several rounds. Thraxul won twice, Chris won once, and Siktar's risky strategy paid off in the final game, leading to a dramatic come-from-behind victory. She seemed particularly pleased about this. As the evening wound down, Thraxul stood by the window, looking out at the stars visible beyond the station. Jake joined him. Thank you for coming, Jake said. I hope you had a good time. Thraxul was quiet for a long moment. Jake Morrison, may I ask you something personal? Sure. The dinner became a regular thing. Every Friday evening, Thraxul and Siktar would arrive at the human habitat module, and Lisa would have food prepared. Sometimes it was Earth food, sometimes the Vraxians brought dishes from their culture, and occasionally they experimented with foods from other species at the academy. It was the fourth Friday dinner when things really changed. Jake was helping Lisa in the kitchen when their door chimed earlier than expected. He opened it to find Thraxul standing there, but something was different. The big Vraxian looked agitated, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Hey, you're early," Jake said. "Everything okay?" "I wish to speak with you before the others arrive," Thraxul said quietly. "May I enter?" "Of course, come in." Thraxul ducked through the door and stood in the common area looking uncomfortable. Lisa waved from the kitchen but gave them space, sensing this was important. "What's going on?" Jake asked. Thraxul was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I received communication from my broodfather today. He has heard of my associations here at the Academy." "Associations meaning us?" "Yes. He is displeased that I spend time with non-Vraxians, particularly with prey species. He says I am dishonoring our family name by showing weakness." Jake felt a flash of anger. "That's ridiculous. You're not showing weakness. You're showing you're smart enough to make friends." "In Vraxian culture, friendship is weakness," Thraxul said. "Warriors stand alone. We compete with our broodmates, we dominate those beneath us, and we show no softness. My father says I have gone soft by spending time with you. What do you think?" Jake asked carefully. Thraxul looked at him with those metallic eyes. "I think my father has never experienced what I have experienced here. He has never sat and shared a meal with someone who sees him as an equal, rather than a threat. He has never laughed over a game with no combat purpose. He has never had someone pick him up when he falls and tell him it is acceptable to be imperfect." His voice grew stronger. "I think my father is alone in a way I no longer am, and he does not even realize it." "That is the true weakness," Jake smiled. "Sounds like you've got it figured out then." "But it is not simple," Thraxul continued. "If I continue to defy cultural expectations, I may be cast out from my brood. I will have no family in Vraxian terms." "But you'd have us," Jake said simply. "Look, I can't tell you what to do. This is your choice. But I can tell you that chosen family is just as real as blood family, sometimes more so because you pick each other every day." The door chimed again. This time it was Siktar, along with Emma and Danny, who had been studying together in the library. "Thraxul arrived early," Jake explained. "We were just talking." Siktar looked at Thraxul and seemed to understand immediately. "You told him about your father's message. You received one too?" Thraxul asked. "Yes. My broodmother expressed similar concerns. She said I am abandoning Vraxian values." Emma looked between them. "Are you two in trouble because of us?" "We are in conflict with our families," Siktar said. "But not because of you, because we have learned there are other ways to be strong." "Being strong doesn't mean being alone," Danny said, flopping onto the couch. "Some of the strongest people I know are strong because they have people supporting them. My mom always said that asking for help isn't weakness, it's intelligence." Chris emerged from his room, drawn by the conversation. "In programming, we have this concept called redundancy. You don't rely on a single point of strength because if it fails, everything fails. You build networks, connections, multiple pathways. It's how you create something that lasts." "Chris just compared friendship to computer networks," Jake said with a grin. "But he's not wrong." Lisa came out of the kitchen carrying a tray of her famous cookies. "Okay, this got heavy while I was cooking. Sit down, everyone. Let's talk about this properly." They all settled in the common area. Lisa passed around cookies, and even that simple act seemed to ease some of the tension. "When I decided to come to this academy," Lisa said, "my father was against it. He wanted me to stay on Earth, open a restaurant in our hometown, carry on the family tradition. We had a huge fight about it." "What happened?" Siktar asked. "I came anyway," Lisa said, "because this was my dream, not his. It was hard and we didn't talk for weeks. But eventually he came around. Not because I changed my mind, but because he realized I was serious about this path. Now he's proud of me, even if it's not what he originally wanted." "Humans defy their families?" Thraxul asked. "When necessary," Emma said. "We respect our families, but we also believe in individual choice. You have to live your own life." "Vraxians do not have this concept," Siktar said. "The brood is everything. Individual desires are secondary." "But you're here," Jake pointed out, "at this academy, learning about other species, experiencing new things. That was a choice you made." Thraxul considered this. "You are correct. Coming here was our choice. Perhaps continuing to learn and grow is also our choice." "Exactly," Danny said. "And if your families can't accept that, that's their problem, not yours." The evening proceeded with dinner, but the conversation kept returning to the topic of family and belonging. It was Chris who asked the question that everyone was thinking. What does family mean to each of you? They went around the group. Emma talked about her large extended family back on Earth, how chaotic and loud and loving they were. Danny described his parents who had encouraged his adventurous spirit. Lisa spoke more about her father and their eventual reconciliation. Chris quietly mentioned his siblings and how they always supported each other. When it came to Thraxul and Siktar, they described a very different experience. Thraxian families were based on competition and hierarchy. Broodmates fought for status. Parents pushed their children to be stronger, harder, more dominant. Affection was seen as weakness. Vulnerability was punished. That sounds exhausting, Emma said gently. It is the way things are, Siktar said, or were. Now I am uncertain. Can I tell you what I think family should be? Jake asked. It should be people who make you feel safe being yourself. People who celebrate your successes and help you through failures. People who accept you even when you're imperfect. Like when I dropped the bread, Thraxul said suddenly. In that moment I expected shame, punishment. Instead you laughed and told stories of your own mistakes. You made my imperfection acceptable. Because it was just dropping bread, Danny said. Not a moral failing or a sign of weakness. Just a clumsy moment. Everyone has them. Siktar was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised everyone. I do not wish to return to a life where I cannot show imperfection. Where I must always be hard, always alone, always competing. This is better. This is Pack, Emma said softly. Human Pack. And you're part of it now, whether your families approve or not. What if we are cast out? Thraxul asked. Vraxians who are broodless have no status, no place in society. Then you make a new place, Lisa said firmly. Look, I know it's scary to go against your culture, but you're already doing it. You're here with us having this conversation. The question is whether you're going to hide it or own it. They sat in silence for a moment, processing this. Then Chris spoke up again, his voice quiet but clear. In the past month, I've watched you two change. Not in bad ways, but in good ones. Thraxul, you smile now. Not often, but sometimes. Siktar, you make jokes. You both seem lighter, less burdened. That's not weakness. That's healing. Jake saw something shift in Thraxul's expression. The big Vraxian looked around at all of them, at this group of small, soft humans who had welcomed him without fear or judgment. You are correct, Thraxul said finally. We have changed. We have learned that strength can be gentle, that power can be shared, that standing together is better than standing alone. If my brood cannot accept this, then I choose to create a new brood. He looked at Siktar. What do you choose? Siktar met his gaze. I choose the same. I choose this pack. Emma started crying, which alarmed the Vraxians until she explained she was happy. Danny pulled them both into a group hug, which was awkward given the size difference but somehow worked. Lisa went back to the kitchen and returned with a cake she'd been hiding for dessert. I was going to save this for later, she said. But this feels like the right moment. It's a chocolate cake. On Earth we use cake to celebrate important occasions. What are we celebrating? Siktar asked. New beginnings, Jake said, and chosen family. They ate cake and talked late into the night. Thraxul and Siktar told them more about Vraxian culture, the good parts and the hard parts. The humans shared more stories from Earth, the diversity of human cultures and how they'd learned to find common ground. At one point, Danny tried to teach the Vraxians a human card game called poker. It went poorly because Vraxians apparently had no concept of bluffing, seeing deception in games as dishonorable, but they all laughed about it, and that was what mattered. When Thraxul and Siktar finally left that night, something fundamental had changed. They weren't just friends now. They were family in the way that mattered most, the way humans understood it. They had chosen each other. The next morning, both Vraxians sent formal messages to their respective broods. The messages were respectful but firm. They acknowledged their family's concerns, but made clear that they would continue their chosen. The semester was halfway done when Jake started noticing something strange. More aliens were showing up to the cafeteria when he and his friends ate lunch. They would sit at nearby tables, not quite approaching but clearly observing. Some would nod politely when Jake waved. Others quickly looked away, but they were still there, watching. We have an audience, Emma said one day, gesturing subtly to the tables around them. Thraxul followed her gaze. They are curious, Word has spread about the human pack. What kind of word? Danny asked, mouth full of something that was supposed to be a sandwich. That humans form bonds without fear or hierarchy, Siktar explained. That you welcomed Vraxians and made us into family. Other species are confused by this behavior. Confused good or confused bad? Lisa wanted to know. Both, Thraxul said. Some find it fascinating. Others find it threatening. That afternoon, Jake discovered what Thraxul meant. He was heading to his next class when 3 large reptilian aliens blocked his path. Krell, if he remembered correctly. Their species was known for being aggressive and territorial. Human, the largest one said. You are Jake Morrison. That's me, Jake said carefully. Can I help you? You have corrupted the Vraxians, made them weak. This is unacceptable. Jake blinked. Corrupted? I just invited them to dinner. How is that corruption? You have made warriors into pets. This is an insult to all strong species. Okay, first of all, nobody's a pet, Jake said, feeling his temper rise. They're my friends. Second, they're not weak. They're still warriors. They just also happen to be nice people once you get to know them. The Krell leader leaned down, bringing his snout close to Jake's face. His breath smelled like sulfur. Perhaps we should test how strong humans really are, without your Vraxian protectors. Before Jake could respond, a deep voice rumbled from behind the Krell. The human does not need protection. All 3 Krell spun around. Thraxul stood there, arms crossed, looking utterly calm. Behind him stood Siktar, and surprisingly, Emma and Chris. This does not concern you, Vraxian, the Krell leader said. You are threatening my packmate, Thraxul said. That concerns me greatly. Packmate? The Krell laughed. You have truly fallen far. A Vraxian warrior claiming a prey species as pack. I claim humans as family, Thraxul corrected. And they are far more dangerous than you understand. You see their soft skin and small size and think them weak. This is a mistake. How are they dangerous? Another Krell demanded. They have no claws, no venom, no armor. Siktar stepped forward. They have something more powerful. They have the ability to turn enemies into allies, to see potential where others see only threat. They looked at Vraxians, the species that has conquered a dozen worlds, and they saw friends who needed dinner invitations. That is a kind of strength you do not possess. Jake felt Emma's hand on his shoulder. Come on, she said quietly. Let's just go to class. Running away? The Krell leader taunted. Jake turned back. Not running. De-escalating. There's a difference. But hey, if you're curious about humans, you're welcome to join us for Friday dinner. We're having tacos. Lisa makes great tacos. The Krell stared at him in complete confusion. Jake waved and walked away with his friends. Behind them, he heard the Krell arguing among themselves, clearly baffled by the response. Tacos? Thraxul asked as they walked. I panicked, Jake admitted. But seriously, the invitation stands. For anyone who wants to actually get to know us instead of making assumptions. That Friday, their small dinner group expanded. A timid species called the Pellic. Small, furry beings who looked like earth rabbits, shyly asked if they could attend. They'd been watching the humans and Vraxians interact and were curious. Of course you can come, Lisa said enthusiastically. The more the merrier. Do you have any dietary restrictions I should know about? The Pellic, whose name was Tiv, explained their diet. Lisa immediately started planning additions to the menu. By the time Friday arrived, she'd prepared a spread that accommodated 5 different species' digestive systems. The Pellic arrived right on time, bringing a traditional dish from their culture. They were nervous around Thraxul and Siktar at first. Their species had a natural fear response to large predators. But they watched how the humans interacted with the Vraxians, the casual affection and easy laughter, and slowly began to relax. You truly do not fear them? Tiv asked Jake quietly. No reason to, Jake said. They're my friends. They'd never hurt me. But they are predators. We are prey. It is natural order. Maybe in the wild, Jake said. But we're not in the wild. We're here at an academy trying to learn and grow. Natural order doesn't really apply when you're sitting in a classroom studying quantum mechanics together, you know? By the end of the evening, Tiv was laughing at Danny's jokes and even playfully arguing with Thraxul about the best strategy in the board game they played. The sight of a tiny rabbit-like being lecturing a massive warrior about game theory was surreal, but somehow it worked. Word spread even faster after that. The humans didn't just befriend apex predators, they befriended everyone. They saw no hierarchy, no natural order, only potential friends who hadn't been invited yet. More species started approaching. A crystalline being named Hex, who communicated through light patterns. A amphibious species called the Quor, who had to wear moisture suits outside water. Even a pair of insectoid Kaitik, who had a hive mind connection and spoke in unison. The Friday dinners grew larger. Lisa recruited help from other human students who'd heard about the gatherings and wanted to participate. They started meeting in a larger common area to accommodate everyone. It was during one of these larger gatherings that the Krell showed up. Jake was telling a story, making everyone laugh when he noticed the 3 Krell from earlier standing at the entrance. The room went quiet. Several smaller species instinctively moved behind larger friends. The Krell leader stepped forward. "We have come to understand what humans are," he announced. "Oh boy," Danny muttered. "Here we go." But the Krell didn't seem hostile. He looked around at the diverse group gathered together, eating and laughing despite their differences. "We have watched you for weeks," the Krell continued. "We have seen prey species and predator species sitting together. We have seen traditional enemies sharing food. We have seen the Vraxians, the galaxy's fiercest warriors, laughing and playing games, and we have tried to understand how this is possible." "So what's your conclusion?" Emma asked. "That we were wrong," the Krell leader said simply. "We believed strength meant standing alone, dominating others, maintaining fear. But we see now that there is a different kind of strength. The strength to build bridges instead of walls. The strength to see potential friends instead of certain enemies." He looked directly at Jake. "You invited us to dinner that day. We thought it was a joke or an insult. But the invitation was genuine, was it not?" "Completely genuine," Jake said. "Still stands, actually. We have plenty of food." The Krell looked at his companions, then back at the room full of species who should not be comfortable together, but clearly were. "Then we accept, if you will have us." Lisa immediately jumped up. "Let me get more plates." The 3 Krell joined the gathering, awkwardly at first. They were used to taking what they wanted through intimidation. The concept of asking politely and waiting their turn was foreign, but they watched how others behaved and slowly adapted. Thraxul ended up talking with the Krell leader, whose name was Grek. They discussed combat techniques and warrior culture, but the conversation shifted when Grek asked how Thraxul had adjusted to being broodless. "I am not broodless," Thraxul corrected. "I simply have a different kind of brood now. A chosen one." "And that is enough?" Grek asked. "You do not miss your original brood?" "Sometimes," Thraxul admitted. "But I do not miss the isolation, the constant competition, the inability to show any weakness or vulnerability. Here I can be myself. That is worth more than status." Grek was thoughtful. "My brood is traditional Krell, strong but separate. We compete for resources and status. I have never considered that there might be another way." "There is always another way," Siktar said, joining the conversation. "It simply requires the courage to seek it." The evening continued late into the night. At one point someone suggested they make this a regular thing, not just Friday dinners, but a proper organization. A club where different species could come, together share cultures and build friendships without fear or hierarchy. "We could call it the Harmony Society," Hex suggested, their crystalline body pulsing with colors. "Since we are at Station Harmony." "Or the Pack," Danny suggested with a grin. "Since that's basically what we are." They voted and decided on the Harmony Pack, a compromise that satisfied everyone. Jake was elected as one of the founding members, along with Emma, Thraxul, and Tiv. Within a month, the Harmony Pack had over 50 members from 20 different species. They met twice a week, hosted cultural exchange events, organized study groups, and most importantly, provided a space where anyone could come and feel welcome regardless of their species, size, or reputation. The Academy administration took notice. The dean, an ancient being called the Collector who had been running the academy for centuries, called Jake to her office. Jake had never been to the dean's office before. It was filled with artifacts from hundreds of worlds, trophies, and gifts.